Welcome to the GSMC Pets Podcast, the show that caters to pet lovers of all kinds. We'll talk about pets on social media, pets doing amazing things, and how to take care of the pets in your life. Whether your pet is a dog, a cat, a llama, hamster, reptile, or something more exotic, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Pets Podcast.
Well, hello, and thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Pets Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am Sam, and my little co-host, Eisen, is napping on his yellow blanket full of catnip. He just had a nice little meal, and he's just kind of content right now, so that's good. Now, I'm not really content with how I've spent my week, or at least the beginning of my week, because I just missed, 5 days ago, May the 4th. And if you're a Star Wars fan, you definitely know what that means. So, May the 4th be with you versus May the Force be with you. And it's just a little Star Wars celebration to really just encourage a community. Now, what does this have to do with pets? Well, I was wondering if my favorite Star Wars characters were suddenly made into a pet that I could take care of, what kind of animal, what kind of pet would they turn into? So, that's where we're getting at today. And we are going to talk about the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy. Then we're going to talk about Star Wars Clone Wars, which recently ended. And then, of course, The Mandalorian, which is available on Disney+. Along with other cool little Star Wars stuff. But we won't get into that. That's not how I spend my time, okay? So, we are going to get started and, well, put your feet up and I guess just chill for now, I guess. So, let's see what we're going to talk about right so now. We're going to be talking about the prequel trilogy of Star Wars. So, basically the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, where he ends up being Darth Vader at the very end. Spoiler alert! But I'm not going to get too much into the plot, so if you want to go ahead, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and do it. Everyone at this point knows that we know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader by the end of the original trilogy. So, I wanted to talk about some characters that I found very, very wonderful, and I kept on asking, what kind of pet would you be? So, I decided to make a little list, talk to my husband, because he's a Star Wars nerd in the family. And, well, I came up with, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, and, of course, Yoda. So, these were very consistent characters, aside from Darth Sidious. They were consistent characters in basically the entirety of the series, except for Qui-Gon Jinn, and he's my first one I want to talk about. Poor Qui-Gon Jinn. What kind of pet would he be? Well, if you look at a picture of him, and it's, Liam Neeson with, long hair and just his strong brow, all that kind of stuff. You kind of wonder, all right, what could he be? He could be, I don't know. Again, I think of regal or powerful or something like that. But basically, he's a hippie of the Jedi, which says a lot. And he believes in the power of the living force, which is something that really keeps him in the moment and he is very cautious of his feelings and how they can influence the behavior of yourself. And then, well, he seemed like a very devoted individual to the Jedi, and he could have been part of the Jedi Council, but he's a troublemaker. So where does this all fit in? We decided Sharpay. So he's wise. Sharpays look pretty wise, especially when they're not gallivanting around with a little smile on their face. It's really cute. But wrinkled, well, I guess if you consider... Well, actually, Liam Neeson didn't even have any wrinkles. But maybe his ribs were wrinkled. But I just don't know. But Sharpays are known to be suspicious, affectionate, devoted, independent, reserved, and loving, which is, a lot of what Qui-Gon Jinn is. He believed in the living force. He also was always devoted to completing his mission and having a very independent approach to things that, well, sometimes he doesn't need the approval of others. And, well, he was also quite reserved. He was a very, he was able to observe that Anakin Skywalker as a child, like a 10-year-old child, he was able to essentially see the potential in him, and, well, by the end of episode 1, he's killed, and leaves Obi-Wan, his Padawan, to now take on Anakin as his own Padawan. So, at this point, you're thinking, okay, so what more about the Sharpay? Well, there was a movement from Chairman Mao to actually get rid of all the Sharpay. So they were actually close to extinction, but somehow they survived, and they're still with us today. Now, the reason why I bring this up, well, yes, another spoiler alert, Qui-Gon dies, but he also is not necessarily dead because he goes into the living force, and he's part of that little commune, pretty much. So I think that there's a lot going for the Sharpay and Qui-Gon. But let's see, you're gonna love this. Obi-Wan, he had bad hair, except for in episode 3. The hair in episode 1 was basically not really a buzz cut, but he has the texture. He had very interesting texture hair, and it just kind of stuck up in a really ugly way. And then he had that little tail that showed that he was a Padawan learner. But pretty much, we decided that Obi-Wan, well, with his bad hair, and he had this weird regalness to him about how he postured and stuff. And again, like his master, he was affectionate and he was alert, sweet, sometimes even, playful in a way. And, well, that really covers what the Chinese crested dog is. Kind of the weird hair and the, it's supposed to be kind of a dog that you should take seriously, but everything else looks janky all over, if that makes sense. So the face seems fine, but everything else is okay, what's going on here? So I really think that you'll enjoy seeing the evolution of Obi-Wan over this episode, actually. So, moving on. Anakin Skywalker, the guy that destroys everything, pretty much, and then saves everything. So, we decided that he was more of a Rottweiler, and just kind of wait for this, because there can be a lot said about Rottweilers. There are some people that believe that they're aggressive, that they're dangerous, but they're actually just really misunderstood. Just like a Rottweiler, actually. Anakin was a courageous and obedient individual. He is fearless and good-natured and very self-assured to a point of disaster, pretty much. But overall, he was just a misunderstood guy that didn't have the support that he needed. And that's actually a really sad thing to think about because, well, he had the entire Jedi Academy Jedi Temple to just have someone to reach out to. But there's a lot of, I'm not going to give any spoilers for this one, so you can go watch the movie. But note that he was a very good-natured individual, and something just happened, and something just pushed him to go a bit too far to basically being devoted to an individual that he loved, which is forbidden in Jedi world. So, now we move on to Padme Amidala. So, straight up standard poodle. Intelligent, regal with fabulous and elaborate style. Intelligent, independent. She was a woman of power. She was a senator, and, well, come on. I would imagine someone with that much confidence and independence and just control of herself, well, poodle, right? Standard poodle. Because when you get to the toy poodles, that kind of, they're all shivery and stuff. I can say from experience that this is true. But, so from there, we finally fall onto Yoda. And the best way that we could describe Yoda, because he's a funny looking guy, and he speaks funny, and we just decided he is an unknown dog breed, but somehow people say that he's kind of cute in the ugly kind of way. So he wins the ugliest dog competitions that happen around the world, pretty much. And, well, I guess that's fine. But overall, I think that this really suits each character. You'll also see, as I said, an evolution of certain characters through different parts of media, including them. But we need to go on a break. And next segment, we are going to move on to the original trilogy. So I imagine Gen Xers, I guess. I imagine that Gen Xers are going to be kind of annoyed or just kind of tickled by this entire thing because, well, why not? So, we'll be back after these commercial break.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
And welcome back. We were just talking about the prequel trilogy, and I imagine that some people are going to wonder, why in the world did I not talk about Jar Jar Binks? Well, Jar Jar Binks is always going to be attacked, and I hate it, so I'd rather not, feed into this entire hatred of Jar Jar Binks. But we do want to talk about the original, the classic trilogy. So the one with Luke, Leia, Han, and a very old Obi-Wan. And, also the Death Star. So I wanted to start off with Luke, because he's a very interesting character here. Well, let's actually combine it, Luke and Leia, because, they're twins. Oops. Another spoiler alert, sorry. But Luke and Leia, twins, however, they were split at birth, pretty much. Leia went to Bail Organa and his wife, who were, they were thinking, okay, we want to adopt a daughter. So that's perfect. He was a senator. He lived on Coruscant, which is like a nice kind of city planet. And, basically it's, Leia's growing up privilege, essentially. Luke, however, he's taken by Obi-Wan to his relative's farm, and it's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. So after that, when Obi-Wan leaves, he's going to be watching over the child. That's what he decides. So he stays. And Luke has no idea of any of this because Uncle Owen doesn't want him to follow the path of Anakin Skywalker, which is something that he absolutely feared. But anyway, because Leia lived a very privileged life, I kind of put her down as a toy poodle, where she's sweet, she's intelligent still, and sometimes has a lot of bark, and occasionally a little bit of bite. So really, really kind of digs into there for Leia. But for Luke, he's like a golden retriever, honestly. He wants to please everyone. He wants to do the best that he can. And he's, very excitable, pretty much. Like, the world around him is so new, especially when he leaves Tatooine in the Millennium Falcon, basically. So, he's just brand new to this entire thing. But I would say he's actually a stray golden retriever, because he doesn't really know his maximum potential, where he comes from. Like, poor Luke, he has no idea that his mother was a senator and that his father was basically a Jedi Master who fell to evil. So, there's that. And then, let's talk about Han Solo, the owner of the owner of the Millennium Falcon. So, we're gonna break up this entire dog thing because, it needs to be done. Han is an alley cat. That's what we agreed on. Just wily and very sure of itself, can take care of itself on its own. It's very independent, brash at times, and just, I've met a lot of cool alley cats, I'll be honest. So there's that. He's, very much so, very out for himself, pretty much. I think that really puts the entire idea of Han Solo in that single section. Out for himself, up until the end. But, we're not going to get into that because spoiler alerts. Now, let's say we move on to Obi-Wan again, because the great thing about Obi-Wan is that there are different parts of this saga that, well, show a real change in his character. So we said that Obi-Wan originally was the Chinese crested dog, which is great, but by the time episode 4 hits, Obi-Wan is like all gray-haired and wrinkly. He looks hardened by the weather of Tatooine. So, there has to be a change here. So, basically, I'm going to play off of Obi-Wan being like a guardian angel for Luke. He came from like a pack, so we'll say he was like a pack dog, and he basically was surrounded by a bunch of people that were very similar to him, like the other Jedi. But, he knew his own territory, and then everything went to the craziest possible situation, and then he was basically living a life of exile, watching Luke. So, what kind of dog or cat could Obi-Wan be? Well, what I have written here is husky, and also written next to it is Balto. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned Balto earlier in some of my episodes. But yeah, the thing about Balto, even though it's not really historically accurate, well, Balto was real. He did take part in getting a life-saving medication to a place where people were essentially dying, like especially a lot of children. So, yeah, I would say that a husky would be probably, a husky like Balto would probably be Obi-Wan at this point. So, essentially we're looking at a guy that knows, as I said, knows this territory. He's now living, instead of, what huskies would love, like all the winter and cold and snow, ice, all that kind of stuff. Well, Obi-Wan goes into the other spectrum, where he's like in an arid desert planet, basically. So, it's all focused on extremes, and losing a pack dog, losing his pack, basically. So, it's actually a very sad story whenever you think about it, and, well, we're not going to talk about just the overall sadness of Obi-Wan's life. We'll focus on his achievements. And he was a very good teacher, though, it was short-lived. He was a very good teacher to Luke. Now, I have one more character that I want to bring up. Who else could I talk about? No, it's not a repeat, but what if Chewbacca was a human instead of, a Wookiee animal alien thing? Well, we could just say that he is essentially like a very beleaguered Mark Ruffalo. He's frustrated with things that could go a certain way, but just kind of, again, falls apart. But he's working hard to kind of keep his life situated, like in the holiday special, like he has a family and he's taking care of them, but he's also like a part of like Han's crew, so he's away a lot, and it's just so much stuff like bearing down on him, and he's just tired. But aside from that, I think that Chewie would be a very cool Mark Ruffalo, because Mark Ruffalo is the best. You can't change my mind. So, now that I have outed myself as a Mark Ruffalo fan, I don't even know if I could say outed, because I'm proud of that, and I don't see anyone saying that Mark Ruffalo should be canceled or anything like that. So, there's that. So, I'm probably mainstream, love Ruffalo. Everything that I've seen him in is fantastic. But, I also outed myself as a Chewie fan, because Chewie is amazing in every single, instance that he is in the saga, basically the Skywalker saga. But this is all just going down a rabbit hole, and now we need to talk about the final piece of this saga, and that is the sequel trilogy, which we're going to talk about after this break.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, and we just got back from talking about the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy of Star Wars, and now we are going to be talking about the sequel trilogy, which to some people is a very enjoyable experience. But let's make them dogs or cats, because that's far more interesting, right? So I actually had a nice long conversation with my husband about this. Yes, we talk about that kind of stuff on the regular, it feels like. But I have basically the text conversation right in front of me. And essentially, we just kind of went down the line with these different characters. So we're going to start off with Finn. And Finn is a pit bull. He's misunderstood, and originally, he was trained for violence. He was programmed for violence. But the thing is, once you take the pit bull out of a violent situation and you're able to successfully heal this poor animal, they have so much love to give, and they're just incredibly devoted to the people that are around him that he trusts. So there's that, and I think that is perfect for him, because I'm thinking about Regina and how she can kind of scare people, but once you realize she's not violent, or mean or anything like that. Well, people love her. And it's just kind of something that, stigma has against pit bulls. And Finn was definitely not trusted for a period of time. But, again, there are more characters to talk about. So, let's see. We have Hux. And if you guys aren't familiar with Hux, Hux was the, basically, was he general? Yeah, general. He was a general that was basically, thrown around by Kylo Ren in Episode 8 and became a double agent for the First Order. Well, against the First Order for the Resistance. So we kind of decided he was a rat. And I'm sorry for rat owners. I know rats can be quite sweet. Who knows? Hux could have been quite sweet when he was nowhere near the First Order. But I just don't know. I will say that because he was a double agent, you would think he had a side. He actually didn't have a side. He just wanted the world to burn at some point because he was just screwed over most of the time. And I just can't handle Hux. And I'm going to be honest, I am very fearful of rodents, and I'm trying to get over it. So, Hux is just going to stay that way until I find to find coping mechanisms with this fear that I have. But, well, the great thing that is coming up next is Rey. And we decided that Rey was a minx, because she's loving and she's loyal to the friends, but she likes to be by herself. She can stay by herself for long periods of time. I mean, the very beginning of the episode 7 was that she was alone, taking care of herself, and just being her, and she was fine with it. So, I mean, also she really tries to make sure that her friends are taken care of. So that goes into the loyalty to friends, where she's always trying to make sure that they're taken care of and that they are safe, or as safe as they possibly could be. But now, let's get to this really funny one. I'm just looking at this text right now. I'm going to quote this. And it is, Kylo is a poorly socialized chihuahua, aggressive and biting the hand who feeds him. Yet for some reason, people keep going crazy over him. And I think that's actually perfect because, well, Kylo is a real jerk. Let's just face it. There's plenty of evidence showing that he has a very bad temper. He lets his emotions get in the way, and he is essentially just a very destructive force, and he's just lashing out at people that aren't really doing anything to hurt him, but he's just, I don't know, just hurt, and just wallowing in that hurt. And I'm not saying Chihuahuas have that, but a lot of them are poorly socialized, and that kind of leads to just poor behavior and just kind of isolating your dog from other dogs at some point. But anyway, let's talk about one of my favorite characters that was actually basically written out of the show, of the movie, and that's Rose. And she appeared in episode 8. She basically worked with the machines and maintaining the ship, and that's all. That's basically it. But she really didn't have much human contact. But we kind of decided that she was a shelter tabby cat because, well, she really did bond to one person very closely, and that was Finn. Originally, I would imagine it was her sister that she was very close to, but she had died, and, well, she needed to have, some support, and that kind of ended up being Finn. But she's smart. She does what she has to do to survive, which is evident when she gives up her necklace that is quite valuable so that they can continue a mission. And she's aware of the injustices of life because of her own life. And, well, mostly off screen, you can very much so bet that she's going to be under your bed, just kind of hiding. Because, well, introverts. And also, well, the world is difficult and I need to be away from it for a little bit. But, wow, that was really about it. I just have to say that the characters that I'm going over is pretty interesting. As you might have noticed, Obi-Wan was not mentioned in this, but I will say that you heard his voice in episode 7 when Rey was was getting ready to take the lightsaber from like a little den area underneath the bar. You'll have to watch. But yeah, you heard his voice, and I have to say that what would he be? I'm not sure what he would be, what kind of pet he would be, but he would be a very concerned pet, and I'm not sure how to really frame that, but a very concerned pet of some sort. But we need to go on another commercial break because, well, we have so much to go over, and we're going to be talking about the Clone Wars, Star Wars The Clone Wars series, and that has actually recently ended. And that show, obviously, if you've seen the prequel trilogy, it ends at the end, towards the... Well, you'll say it, I'll say it. It ends, at the very end of the series. And it's basically Order 66 is basically ordered, and then every Jedi pretty much dies. And then it's a very miserable, sad experience. But, that means that I can actually go over some uplifting things about just these characters in general, because I actually like comparing them to animals. So, I honestly would love to have, like, the different versions of Obi-Wan, for instance. But we are going to go on a commercial break just to take a second, take a breather, and then we'll be back.
Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Back to the prequel trilogy, and we're going to zoom in on the time between episode 2 and episode 3, because a lot really happens during that time period. It's Clone Wars, and you are basically seeing Emperor Palpatine, the Darth Sidious's plan, unfold pretty much, and we know what's going to happen in the end, but we don't know about those individual battles, the relationships that are built. But anyway, this is about them being pets. So, I wanted to start off with Anakin very quickly. At this point in the series, he's still a Rottweiler. He will forever be a Rottweiler because he's just a very misunderstood, very, very strong and centered individual when he has to be. But he actually has Ahsoka Tano, his Padawan, that actually brought him to be more centered, and I wonder how things would have turned out if she were more present in his life after she left the Jedi Temple. But that's a totally different thing. So Ahsoka, let's talk about her. She's actually a very perky and excitable individual when she first arrives, and just kind of kicks butt, honestly. And we kind of were thinking that she could be more of like a lab, and just because like this calming, soothing presence that labs have at some point in their lives. And well, over time, this excitable young girl is exposed to war and just treachery, and she starts to learn and observe problems of the environment around her. But through this, she actually manages to grow more, and she's just kind of a loving, calm individual towards the end of the series. And, well, I just want to know more about Ahsoka after this series, honestly. But we then have Rex, and whenever I think Rex, I think of the clone troopers, because he is a clone trooper. And then also, well, Rex is basically in a puppy mill, pretty much. Like, they have the standard dog that they want to have, and that's Jango Fett. And basically they're making clones of him over and over and over again. And sometimes there may be a clone that just is not viable for being a soldier, so they're defected. And they're still brothers, but the difference in respect is very palpable there. But, yeah, so Rex is basically from a puppy mill. He is trained for, like, a martial cause. Like, he is a clone trooper, and that is all he is. He is a soldier. That's all he knows. At first, he's kind of intimidating, but he's actually quite sweet. And you get a really hard moment in the series finale where he has to really fight against his brothers that are following Order 66 and all that kind of stuff. You guys just need to watch it. But we came to the conclusion that he is definitely a German Shepherd, very loyal, but you associate fighting or like law and order with German Shepherds, and that's kind of where he was at. And I don't know, it's always really sad, and I kind of wish that they showed Commander Cody a little bit more in the series finale, but that's, again, more stuff that you need to look up, because, well, now I'm going to talk about Obi-Wan again, because I absolutely adore Obi-Wan. And this is a very different kind of character that you see in the prequel trilogy, and then also in the original trilogy. So, Obi-Wan is intelligent, he is well-groomed at all times, very different from him in episode 4, pretty much, where he's wearing basically dirty old rags, pretty much. But, yeah, he pretty much has a reputation of being a mighty hero, but in actuality, he's just a soft boy, and that kind of lines up with being a boxer, honestly. Like, you think of something that is very, very intimidating looking, but, they're actually quite wonderful dogs. I probably am going to get a boxer in the future and name him Obi-Wan. Oh my gosh. But, yeah, so let's place another character right next to Obi-Wan and basically kind of decide who would you like more. So, Mace Windu. Well, actually, I'm not even going to have you guess who you're going to like more. You're going to love Obi-Wan over Mace Windu, because you know what? Mace Windu, a jerk. And cats, I love them to death, but they can be jerks too. And, well, we decided that Mace Windu would be a Sphinx cat. And I'm going to emphasize over and over again, the prequel trilogy, he was a jerk. In Clone Wars, he was a jerk. He was stubborn. He had expectations of what a Jedi should be, but he was terrible at communicating. He was kind of cruel at times. But, I mean, next to Obi-Wan, this guy is a total dingus, and not thank goodness he's gone, but it really sucks that he had to die. But anyway, just to kind of close this up, we have this final character that's kind of obscure, sure, but he did show up a lot in the Clone Wars, and his name is Jedi Master Plo Koon, and he's some sort of alien that we don't really know, that I don't really know, probably my husband knows, but essentially we kind of made him into like a dolphin, because he's very kind and intelligent. But we just keep on wondering, how are you breathing? Because, well, most of the time we see dolphins and they're doing their little e thing. I'm not going to even try to truly to share how that sounds. I could get Regina to make that sound for you. But yeah, you see the dolphin going around, and they're underwater, and then they're above water, and they seem just perfectly fine transitioning through that. And, well, there's even, like, an episode of the Clone Wars where Plo Koon is, like, in space, not needing, like, any kind of breathing apparatus. So he's able to be in space and survive, essentially, which is bizarre. But I just have to say, like, there were a lot of lost people in Clone Wars, but gosh, it's a fantastic series, and you should definitely go watch it. But we gotta move on, and that is to one of the favorites of this day and age, and that is The Mandalorian. So we are going to take a break, and we are going to basically talk about how Mando is the best, honestly. But again, we're going to go on a quick break, enjoy the commercial, and we will be right back.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back, and, well, let's see. Talked about the trilogy, it feels like. We've talked about Clone Wars, and now we have The Mandalorian, which is a hit show right now, and we're getting, hopefully, we are getting a second season. I, again, would have to ask my husband, hey, when does that come out? And he'll probably know. And well, I feel like there's some interesting things going on in that show that I kind of see as very dog-like behavior. And all of these characters are actually quite likable. And it's just a well put together show. But we're making them animals, right? So I wanted to talk about first Mando himself, the Mandalorian, or the guy that is dressed up in Mandalorian armor. So, essentially, when I think of him, I think of the Newfoundland dog that was caring for the children in the Peter Pan movie. So kind of like a nanny at some point, but it's also a working dog, and it's a good companion. And just at the very start, Mando is given a job, and he has to take this individual. So he has to find this individual, bring him to the buyers. And when he first sees it, the first thing he does is stick a finger at it, like you would a little kid, and then the little creature, touched his finger, and it was just a very cute moment, I guess. But he had basically made an impact on the child, and just he grew attached to it for some weird reason that he couldn't even really vocalize. But yeah, Mando is, protecting this child like any chance that he gets, and he's making sure that they have money so that they can live, pretty much. So he takes on different bounty hunter jobs and gets paid for them. And they're basically kind of just going through space right now, trying to find a place for them to be. And essentially, by the end of the season, Mando is essentially a single dad, and just trying to make the best for his little one. So it's actually a really cute dynamic, and he's very protective of him. And, okay, I'm just walking around in circles about, the kid, the child. Well, we all know it's Baby Yoda. Well, not everyone calls it Baby Yoda because, well, it looks like Yoda, but it's a baby version of him. So think of them as a cute little stray that knows that everyone knows is going to be adopted as soon as possible. And, this actually is kind of the case with Regina with us. She was a stray. They found her at 4 months old, just wandering around in the streets, and she just kind of became ours because we wanted to adopt her, and she was really cute, and just that's how she came to our household. But yeah, we were a foster fail for that one, that is for sure. And, well, the great thing about this Baby Yoda is that, well, because it's possibly related to Yoda of before, well, basically you see it, and then you're thinking, wow, you kind of look like that ugly dog from that Ugliest Dog competition from like a ways back, and that's so strange. Why does it look like it? Is it related? So you have all that, in the background. You don't know what kind of dog it is, but it looks like that thing during that other competition. And sure, that's okay. And then, of course, moving on to another part of the family, that is Cara Dune, and she is definitely an individual. She was a rebel, and she's very tough, she has a very butch aesthetic to her. But yeah, she, again, gets the job done. She just lives off of her looking intimidating, let's just say. And like the first time that Mando actually has an interaction with her, they're fighting. So you know right off the bat what kind of person she is, which is fine. But we kind of struggled with her a little bit. We didn't want to put another pit bull in this group, But we did want to have something that kind of was along those lines, but but different from a pit bull. So we kind of stopped at the American Staffordshire, and just, it's, big, it's, strong looking, it's, I don't know how to say it, it's just a big one, and it just has that confidence, that strength that you can associate with Cara Dune. And I can see that dog just going and cutting through a group of people and getting what it wants, pretty much. Which, I mean, honestly, yeah, it could get whatever it wants. But then, the final one that I wanted to go over was this side character named Quill, and that's spelled Kwiil. But he was essentially spending his entire lifetime to the Empire, just serving the Empire. And at this point, he's free now. So he is, retired. He was basically trained into fighting against an enemy, but he's like a little small boy. But we decided, well, actually, I looked up a picture of different dogs, and I saw this strange-looking one, and Quill was actually a very strange-looking creature, too. So I decided that they were a match made in heaven. And the great thing is that they have, the same kind of background, like, well, I'll go ahead and say it's the Bedlington Terrier, which, wow, okay. I'd never heard of that before, but it's just very similar to Quill in that it was actually, like a rat fighter, and also a running dog, a racing dog too. Not so different from, the Greyhound or anything like that. And, well, basically, they're both free now, and they have their own lives to live, which is pretty awesome, in that case. I'm not going to spill anything else that happens with Quill, and we will definitely avoid that entire story until you guys have actually seen the episodes. But hey, again, I'm a pet podcast girl, not a Star Wars girl. But we are going to go on our final break, and, well, I'm going to give you an update on Miss Regina, because the past few days have been very, very, very interesting. And it kind of left us going to the vet, like, last minute today. So, again, we'll see you after the break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
I was talking a ton about Star Wars and pets, and I think I'm done with Star Wars for a little bit, but I'm almost positive that my husband will have some Star Wars thing going on because, well, he's a fan, but he doesn't go overboard. It's not like a, extreme nerdiness overload. But yeah, I'm kind of done with it for now. And probably right now he's just kind of flipping through his Star Wars collection of books and stuff from the old expanded universe. Anyway, that's me showing how much I've learned from him. But let's talk about Regina and this poor thing and what happened to her paw. And I'll go ahead and say I don't know when this happened or how it happened. But it was 2 days ago, I think, when I was cuddling with Regina, and I noticed that there was some, dried blood on her paw. And I was concerned because, well, my puppy is bleeding somewhere, or was bleeding. So I tried to get a better look, and I noticed that there's a sore on one of her toes, and that her claw was actually split in half. And I wasn't really sure, what to do. There was coagulated blood in the claw, and there was pus coming out of it too, and all of the color from the claw was basically gone, and that was kind of scary. So of course I look up different ways that this could happen to a dog, and then I started seeing abscesses and infections in the heart, and then I just had a flashback to Rhodey and what happened to him, and it was very frightening, and I wanted to take care of it as soon as I could. But that we noticed yesterday that it was looking worse and she was in pain, and we were thinking of just stopping in on Monday to the vet, but then, just seeing her in pain, we decided, okay, calling in the morning, and we're going to see what we can do, any advice. So I call this morning, and I tell the vet tech exactly what's going on, and she says, please come in so we can take care of this paw. So I think she was instantly thinking of infection on Regina, and she was pretty urgent sounding on the phone. So we managed to get there. Regina is scared, so scared, because probably my anxiety and stuff. But she didn't want to get into the car. She didn't want to leave the car. And she was just, anxious the entire time. The vet tech had to carry her into the office. It was so sad. So because of social distancing, my husband and I could not come in with her. So we were staying in our car waiting for an update. And finally the vet on call for today, for today. Today is Saturday, yeah. So the vet calls, and he tells me that she has managed to split her claw all the way up to the nail bed, and that they have to remove the nail, which again sounds kind of scary. It's like you're going to get rid of all of it. And I just was feeling a little bit nervous, but they had already done it, and they reassured me, we're going to give her pain meds, antibiotics, so that she'll be as comfortable as possible, and that we limit the risk of her getting any type of infection. So my poor girl comes out, and we had to put a muzzle on her because she was just so scared, and the vet techs didn't know her very well. So of course I totally understand, because she was, being very defensive and just kind of wanting to be left alone. So there was that. And I don't think that really helped the situation, having that muzzle. But it needed to be done. But yeah, just in addition to all that, we go home, and I know we want to get her a pup cup, but we can't get her a pup cup. So probably tomorrow we're going to go get some whipped cream and give her, a pretty good dollop of whipped cream. But yeah, she's now wearing the cone of shame. She's miserable. But sometimes, she just has this burst of energy that she really should be containing, because like right now, there is no claw there. It's basically regrowing. So we had to put they put Quick Stop on that claw, and that's supposed to really help like keep, seal up an open wound. And I mean, I think I mentioned this before with trimming your pet's claws, actually. And if you don't have Quick Stop, then you can actually use cornstarch or baking powder. No, not baking. Yeah, baking powder, and then also the bread flour to help and seal that. So there you go. So if you don't have the time to go to the pet store, you can always use that. Anyway, we were warned that, there would be a lot of blood for that area if she were to, basically reopen the seal. So we're trying very hard to keep her calm and just relax. And just, for once, stop acting like a puppy, even though you're a puppy. But yeah, I was frightened about that entire situation because, well, I was just thinking back to our dog Rhodey before, and his previous owners allowed him to just kind of live with a tooth abscess that led to really bad teeth for him. It got infected. It scarred up his heart and made his heart murmur even worse for himself. And just, it was a really big thing. And I didn't want to see that for Regina at all, and I wanted to give her the best chance that she had to having a full, comfortable life. And I just acted the way that I knew I would have acted if Rhodey were there. And I don't want to say that's the great thing about having pets, that you learn from each one, but I am grateful that I am more aware now of what can happen to a dog if you just ignore something that eventually seems like it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm just grateful that I was able to take care of Regina, and this is just kind of like a PSA for you guys. Just, if there's something that seems so small, like, their claw looks a little funny and there's a little bit of blood on it, like, actually, stop in, take some time to really, look at it and see if there's possibly anything wrong. And, you could start catastrophizing like I did and look up all the ways that, my dog could die. But, yeah, I wanted to make sure that she was taken care of. And I think that's basically what everyone, every pet parent wants, is to make sure that their pet lives the maximum amount of time that they can, right? But anyway, Regina is fine. She is fine, and she is already galloping about, and that just worries me. I'm probably going to have to find something to calm her down. But yeah, it's just, it was a busy, busy day. But I think I'm going to let you guys go. So I want to thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Pets podcast. We would like it if you subscribe to us and to also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And, well, share your pictures, and also, give us your feedback. We love feedback. We just want to see those reviews and just, improve the show and hear great things from, great stories from our listeners, too. So with that being said, thank you and have a good night.
You've been listening to the GSMC Pets Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.